Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Talk Spicy. I'm Coach Gene Clemens. Thank you for joining me wherever you are joining me. Rate the show, comment, agree, disagree, but whatever you do, keep it spicy. 5-star ratings are appreciated. If you're joining me on the YouTube channel, make sure you like, make sure you subscribe. You know we love to hear from you. The Philadelphia 76ers were eliminated from the playoffs last night. And although some people will try to give you all of the excuses in the world, hey, the Jimmy Butler trade was this, and Embiid was that, and blah, 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 blah. Yes, it was probably going to be a better series if you have a fully healthy Embiid. But really, when Embiid came back, he was still Embiid. So you saw the difference that he was able to make. You saw what he was able to do. But I don't know if that's enough. I just think that as a team, as a collective, the Heat were better. But why? See, here's the thing. I don't think people realize this, but in the NBA, they tell you that stars win championships. And even in the case of the Heat, they were able to get to the title with this type of team, but we're not able to win it because the Lakers had stars. And so they said that stars win championships. And while I'm not inclined to disagree with the NBA and their model, I just have to wonder if you have a team with supposedly two superstars, not just stars, two superstars. If you have a superstar in Joel Embiid, who probably should have been the MVP, and you have a superstar supposedly in James Harden, who has been the MVP, then how are you losing games to Miami, who has Jimmy Butler, whom everybody at every turn acts as if he's not an MVP, he's not a superstar. He's a really good player, he's a star, but not a superstar. That's what people will tell you. I think he's a superstar because I look at things more than just scoring. But they'll tell you he's not a superstar. So if he's not a superstar, then what do we? Okay, so I'm confused. See, the problem with Philadelphia is that they expected James Harden to be something he's not. If you go and look back in time, look back at James Harden's career, when has he ever been the guy to elevate a team when they absolutely positively need it? Not in regular season games or in game fives of playoffs or game fours of playoffs, but in elimination games, win or go home. When has a James Harden team ever been able to ascend? Why has James Harden not been able to win a championship with all of the talent that he has been surrounded by his entire existence? Well, it's simple. If you really think about it, it's easy to understand. Because James Harden's not the guy. He's not the guy. He never should have been the guy. James Harden operates best when he does not have pressure. So if you think about his best years in Houston, his best years in Houston came because there was no pressure for Houston to win a championship. And as he continued to put up ridiculous numbers and the style of play was appealing to the fans and people jumped on that bandwagon, as the pressure built, as it became more for him to handle, as there became more for him on his plate, he withdrew more and more. And he always had a scapegoat. He always had other people that he could blame for his situation. He's always had other people he could blame. They years ago, they added Dwight Howard. Now, Dwight Howard should have been able to do the same things that Clint Capella actually eventually did. One of the best rim runners in the history of the game, athletic, but at that time he was dealing with injuries. Guess who took all of the blame for everything that happened in Houston? Not the future MVP, the guy who was putting up all the points and assists, but the injured center who is now working on his third team in as many years. That's who got the blame. Harden was able to walk from the blame. And then they brought in more people. They brought in Chris Paul. Hey, let's give him a guy who take the load off of him with the ball in his hands. Let's give him a guy who's able to dictate terms the way he dictates terms. And what happened? When Chris Paul had the ball, James Harden would sit in the corner, almost as if he was pouting, as if it was like, how dare you take the ball out of my hands? And then when Chris Paul was injured, James Harden, once again, not able to elevate him. Who gets the blame? Not Chris Paul. Not James Harden. Chris Paul does. Oh, well, it's hard for people to play with him. He's difficult. Their styles don't match together. Blah, 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 blah. They bring in Carmelo Anthony. They don't even really give him a legitimate chance. They've got him coming in, jacking up threes because that's what they say they need. He's apologizing for taking a long two and making it instead of taking a three. They get him out of there fast. The narrative, he's washed up. He can't play anymore. He was a bad fit with James Harden. Skates. Then James Harden does the ultimate disrespect to the game, if you ask me, when you refuse to play because you want to trade, and then you get yourself so out of shape that they are forced to trade you. You go over to New Jersey, not New Jersey. You go over to Brooklyn, where you're now joined with two other superstars, so you don't have to be the man. Except when people get hurt, you've got to step up and elevate your game. He never did. When people were out for whatever reason, you've got to step up and elevate your game. He never did. Then he once again sabotaged Brooklyn in order to get himself to Philadelphia. And people were all on his jock. Regular season, oh, look how easy it is for Embiid. Embiid even said, oh, it's so easy for me now because I don't have to do it all. He's just different. You know what Embiid was saying last night after the game? He was saying that this ain't the same James Harden that was in Houston. He's more of a playmaker now. I think he misspoke. I think he really wanted to say facilitator, but I ain't gonna hold him. His English is way better than any of the other languages that he speaks that I can't speak. So, and this is the guy that's on the hook for $50 million. You know what you could do with $50 million in today's NBA? You can create a team like the Heat. Why is Philadelphia chasing all of these stars when they have the sun? They have the sun already. Joel Embiid is the sun. Everything gets better off Embiid. Why continue to try to parade in these superstar guys who are not homegrown? I could argue that Philadelphia is worse with James Harden because of the way James Harden has to play, because he does not play a lick of defense, because he has to have the ball in his hand as much as he does. A team like Philadelphia with other entities that should be able to be good would actually be better without James Harden. But you're stuck with him. Or maybe you're not, because somebody will be willing to take on that contract if that's the last year of a deal. Maybe you're not stuck with them. Maybe you can unload him to some other team that's going to be a sucker enough to believe that he's going to elevate them to another level when he has never done it ever in the history of his career. Not in college, not with Oklahoma City, not with Houston, not with Brooklyn, and now not with Philly. Does another year change that? If it's a year of continuity and Doc gets a chance to get all of those guys to figure out their roles and stuff, can it be better? Of course it can. Can James Harden win a championship? As a piece of the puzzle? Yeah, of course they can. But if the sun gets hurt, if the sun is off, he is not the star to replace the sun. He's not going to give you the same shine. And we, as fans of basketball, have to appreciate him for what he is. Except what we've seen over the last now 2 seasons is that he's not the person that we fell in love with, which makes the warts come out even more. You ever notice that? Like if you date somebody and you love them, you don't even notice a lot of the flaws. You don't even see them. And then when things go south, the love is gone, all of a sudden you begin to notice all of the warts, all of the blemishes, all of the things that made them ugly. You begin to notice them. Because there's something that happens when you fall in love, right? There's something that happens, that dopamine that gets into your system or in your brain, and it alters your consciousness. It's something different that happens. And that's what we're dealing with James Harden. He had us doped up for so long because he was out there inventing moves and traveling and making long threes and rebounding and getting triple doubles and going to the free throw line 1 billion times, that once he got a little bit older, not even a lot older, a little bit older, once they changed the rules so he can't like trick people into fouling him anymore, all of a sudden his game is normal now. His game is normal. All of those used car salesmen that were out there tricking people into fouling them, now that trick is no longer available to them, now that they can't use that anymore, it's amazing how many of them all look normal. Yeah, they'll explode for a game and have like a really good game. They'll explode, but on a regular basis, they look normal. Not bad, they just look normal. They look like regular human beings. Whereas before, didn't look like regular human beings. Guess who that change didn't didn't bother. That change didn't bother the people who were already built for that. The people who were not looking to just steal points by going to the free throw line, they were not affected by the changes in those rules. But James Harden was. He is the poster child for work something else than hard. I would say smarter, not harder. And maybe I can say smarter because he's been paid handsomely. But the hard has never been a thing for him. It's almost comical that his last name is Harden, because there's nothing about his game that says I play hard. It says I play conveniently. And they needed somebody to play hard versus a team where their calling card is, we're going to play harder than you. They take guys who are prima donnas and they turn them into hard down in Miami. That's a culture. And it goes from the top down. So when you need a James Harden to elevate, and he doesn't, in the biggest game of the year, the biggest game of his career possibly, you just got to eat it. He's not that guy. Let's stop treating him like it. Ladies and gentlemen, that's Talk Spicy. I'm Coach Gene Clemens. We do this thing a few times a week. Rate, show, comment, agree, disagree, but whatever you do, keep it spicy. 5-star ratings are appreciated. If you're joining me on the YouTube channel, make sure you like, make sure you subscribe. If you're joining me anywhere else, we appreciate you. Until Monday, peace.